Great. Hi, everybody at home too, and watching later. So today we're going to switch up our sequence a little bit. So remember, it will be the first week. We're going to slow it down and learn the things first. So if you're feeling like, oh, that was a lot, it's new. But the things you want to have are a ball, if you have one. It could be a tennis ball. You don't want it to be super hard. It needs to have some give to it. These are the Yoga Tune-Up massage balls. I sent the link with the recording last week to these. I do highly recommend getting these, especially if you used to go get massages all the time and you're not. You can learn how to do it yourself a little bit. It's not exactly the same. You can learn how to give yourself a little bit of a massage with these as well. And then we'll also have a blanket or a towel, something you can sit on. And then I have 2 blocks. If you want to have just one block that you might have at home, that's great. And if you don't have a block, what we're going to be using this is for our hands to sit on. So it could be a coffee table, a chair, something just where you can be able to place your hands and it'll be in front of you. So you can move it around if you need to. But we just want something that be able to offer you support if needed. All right, we're actually going to start standing today. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up now. So you'll be able to see me back here. And we'll grab that ball, whatever kind of ball you have, and it'll go on the ground. And you're going to try to get your heel staying on the ground, but then get that ball up into the heel as much as you can. So I don't mean put your heel on the ball. The heel's on the ground, but you're really trying to get into that kind of bottom of the arch as much as you comfortably can. Now with the foot massage stuff, it should feel like a massage, which means that it can have a little bit of that like soreness, but we don't want it to have a pinching sensation or a really sharp sensation or feel like really localized. And then from there, you're just going to place some weight into it. So you're just sort of stepping into that ball and backing away. So nothing too crazy yet, just sort of stepping in and backing away. And depending on how your feet are, how much walking you do, how much standing you do, how much not walking or standing you do, you can have different sensations. Some people, this is going to feel really sensational. Some people, this is going to feel very sensational at all. And then you're just going to move that ball up your foot. So maybe it goes more to like the center of the arch, and then you could just pulse back and forth. Maybe you even move a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. The only wrong way would be if it hurts. So as long as you're just kind of moving around the ball or the sole of your foot, you can move it up closer to the toe mounds where the toes connect to the feet. When you do that, you might even notice a little curling of the toes. So I'm a big fan of a press. From the press, so once you kind of know how the sole of your foot's feeling, you can do a roll, thinking heel to toe, sort of rolling back and forth. There might be some crunchy spots, some spots where it's like, woo, clunky. And you're kind of pushing as you roll. You could do that slowly, or you could even do it a little faster. You could go like heel to big toe, heel to middle toe, sort of imagining that it's going across the foot. I forgot to say this, if this is bothering your balance at all, feel free to do this with a hand against the wall or a hand against something as well. That might allow you to give a little bit more push as well. Some people like twisting the foot. This is not my favorite personally. I don't really feel as much, but some people can push into the foot and twist side to side, and that sort of pulls the skin. Some people like that. I'm not a big twister myself. I'm more of a pusher and maybe a roller. You'll decide which ones feel best to you. And then there's going to be spots on the foot that are probably a little bit more sensitive, or maybe they feel a little tighter, and maybe you want to stay there a little longer. For me, it's right there, kind of in my arch, sort of in the middle of my arch today. And it could change if you do this on a regular basis. So our foot health really does help determine a lot of other health in our body. Our knees, our hips, our back, they're all connected with the feet. And if you're feeling a lot of sensation, what you're probably feeling at the bottom of the feet is actually tight fascia. We're going to switch to the other foot. So you'll start again with that ball closer to the heel and then start putting pressure into it. And just moving up the foot as you sort of put pressure into it. And then you have the option to roll or the option to twist or whatever feels good to you. It might feel different on this side. So if you're feeling a lot of sensation, it's probably the tight fascia in the bottom of your foot. Fascia is that interstitial tissue, that connective tissue that really holds our body together, holds muscle to bone. This is kind of a gross way to think about it, but somebody once said, like, if you dipped yourself in a vat of acid and it removed everything but fascia, and then they removed you back out, you still look like a human shape. You still kind of look like the same shape. It really holds your whole body together. It goes throughout the body. But the lines of fascia meet in your feet and your forehead. So rolling out the feet, especially before you start a class or maybe before you go on a walk or after you go on a walk, can help the whole body of fascia release a little bit. It doesn't mean you're going to become like loosey-goosey Gumby just from rolling your feet out, but maybe some tension in some places might sort of get released. And then after you're done with this side, you're just going to come off that. You can move the ball out to the side. We will use it again at the end of class. And then just find a nice equal standing shape, so feet under the hips, lifting the chest up. And maybe because we just did all that rolling, you have a lot of awareness of the soles of the feet. Maybe you're really, really feeling the soles of the feet. You could close your eyes. You could sort of just notice how each foot might feel a little different. You may be able to better notice where the weight sort of naturally resides in your feet. And then if you're able to, maybe you're able to either lean back or forward or side to side, try to get that weight a little bit more evenly distributed. Taking a few deep breaths in and out through the nose. Once your feet are feeling a little bit more even, maybe you're able to take your attention through your body, lifting the chest, letting the arms be heavy, letting the tailbone just be relaxed and neutral rather than sticking out. From here, you could bring your hands to your heart center to set any intentions you have for practice, asking yourself why you're here today, maybe reminding yourself of what you need in this moment, and reminding yourself of how you want to use your yoga practice off the mat. So this specific thing we're doing today, this movement and shapes, this is one of the limbs of yoga, and there are 8, so it's just one of 8. It's called asana. And traditionally, the asana was used to help you physically feel comfortable so that you could sit in meditation, you could sit in prayer, you can go out into the world without physical pain so that you could become more aware of the ways you treat people, the ways you treat yourself, and that physical pain isn't a distraction. And so from here, you can start to blink the eyes open. You can bring the hands down. We're going to stay in the standing position. You can either just take your hands to your hips or just let them hang. I will tell you that your fingers will start to do something in a moment if you just let them hang, and that's fine. So sometimes I keep my hands on my hips just so my fingers aren't doing this for me. We're going to do a little toe game. So don't be worried if it's not working out how you your ego wants it to. We're just going to see where our feet are today. We're going to start to lift all 10 toes up off the ground, but the soles of the feet stay on the ground. So let's scoot back a little bit here. Holy crash. So lifting the toes up. You're going to try to keep all 10 toes up and start to put just the pinky toes down. It probably isn't going to happen with just the pinky toes. And then you're going to put the next toe down, and then the next toe, and the next toe, so that the only toe that's up is your big toe. So it's up off the ground. And it may not actually be up off the ground, but you're thinking about pulling it. You might even look at it. And then just take a moment and see if you're rolling to the outsides of your feet. And if you are, can you get the whole sole of the foot on the ground and just the big toe off the ground? And then slowly let that big toe drop down. You can shake it out a little bit if you need to. Again, lift all 10 toes off the ground. Try to keep your soles of your feet even on the ground, keeping the weight forward and back even, side to side even. We're gonna do the opposite this time. We're gonna drop the big toe mound first. I always have to look at them. You guys said your hands will probably start to do something curling up as well. So big toe mound down first, big toe down first. Trying not to roll to the insides of the ankles. Really trying to keep the soles of the feet down. That might mean that the other toes have to come down too, but you're really trying to think about it. Then the middle toe, then down to the pinky. For me, it's like I cannot move those other four without moving all of them at once. And then shake it out, okay? We're just doing it 2 more times. This time we're gonna go the opposite way. We're gonna keep all the toes down on the ground, and we're just gonna lift the big toe up. See if maybe you can give it a wiggle. Can you drop it and pick it up? And wiggle it a little bit, maybe even wiggle side to side. I can't today. That's okay. We're gonna keep trying to keep the sole of the foot down. And then from there, lift all 10 toes up. And then drop all 10 toes. So we're trying to keep the big toe mound down, the big toe down, and just lift the other 4 toes without rolling to the insides of the foot. If you need to sit down to do this, you definitely are welcome to. In fact, it's something I would suggest you just kind of take some time, maybe during the week, especially if you have foot pain, you have fallen arches, you know that's something you have. This might be something fun to do just like while you're watching TV. Fun is relative. Drop all of your toes and then just relax your feet. You can shake it out a little bit. So if you know that was really hard for you, or you know you have foot problems, that's something fun that you could do just sort of sitting around. You don't have to make that a big deal. And then from here, we're just gonna push our feet down, lift our chest up. We'll start to take our arms out and then forward. You're gonna flip your palms forward and interlace your fingers. So your palms are facing forward, your fingers are interlaced. From here, notice which pinky is on top, because we will switch that. So we'll switch the interlace of the hands in a moment. Push the feet down and inhale, lift the arms up. Reaching through the armpit, trying to push the hands to the ceiling. Depending on how low your ceilings are, you might even be able to do it. And then really, really push the feet down. So keep pushing the feet down as you exhale and lean over to the right, stretching through that left side of the body. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, lean over to the left, stretching through the right side of the body. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lean over to the right. Push that left foot down so that your hips aren't necessarily going out to the left. You're really trying to stretch through the upper body. Inhale up and exhale over to the left. Push that right foot down. Inhale back up and then just let the arms fall. Do shivers, a little shake out if you need, standing forward. So we're going to do a sequence today and for the next 2 weeks, next couple weeks, where we actually won't go into a downward facing dog or a plank or anything like that. So you're not going to be on your hands much at all today. So if you ever are having wrist problems, or for some reason your shoulder's hurting or something like that, you don't want to be on your hands. This is a really great flow to have. So take your blocks or chair or something, sitting it right in front of you. Maybe, I don't know, for me, these are about a foot or 2 in front of my feet. It's going to matter, it's going to depend on your body. So you can decide later. And we'll stand up nice and tall. We're going to take each shape really slowly for the first round. And then we'll start to take it a little faster. Eventually, you can pair breath with movement, and we'll probably start that next week where we inhale into one shape, exhale into the next. So you flow a little bit more. But for today, we're just going to learn the shape, make sure they feel safe in our body, and then we'll add on from there. Today, I'm going to talk a lot about alignment, and the next 2 weeks, I'll talk less about alignment because it's not as important as just feeling good and moving is. But for today, we're going to make sure we're extra safe. So we're going to push the feet down, stand up nice and tall. If at any point you need to be near a wall, you can do that. Just know that you don't have to hold any balances super, super long as well. And you can always come out. We're going to bring weight into our right foot and lift our left knee up. It doesn't have to go super high. You could also bring your arms up if you felt comfortable doing so. It helps to keep balance with the hands down. From there, you're going to send this left leg straight back, and your hands will come to whatever is going to help support them. Or you don't have to have your hands down at all. They could be at your chest, pushing your hands together. But what we do want to do is kind of tuck your chin and see if you can see your toes. You want them to be pointing down. So the leg doesn't have to be very high. In fact, it doesn't have to be in line with the hips at all. And you'll look down and make sure your toes are pointing down towards the ground and your hips are pointing down towards the ground. If your hands are on something, they push down to pull your chin or pull the top of your head, sorry, and your chest forward. So this is warrior 3. From here, we're going to start to step that left leg way back, bending into the right knee and lifting the chest up, warrior 1. I'm going to show you this side from the front and the other side from the side. So you guys can see both ways. From warrior 1, what we're trying to do is get our hips to both face forward. That might mean that you need to have a really wide stance. So your feet can be really wide. And we're going to bend into the right knee, no pain there, and push it to the right so that this leg's strong. There's not a ton of weight going into the knee because we're leaning into our back leg. The back foot is at a 45-degree angle. So it's not straight. It's also not pointing straight forward. We want to make sure there's no pain in the knee. Sometimes bending that back knee and just making sure the toes and the knees point in the same direction can help you find that lack of pain. And then pushing the right knee to the right helps sort of take any strain out of that knee as well. And then your arms are straight up. So really just reaching through the fingertips, trying to get long. It's almost like you're trying to lift your body off your hips, while at the same time, your feet are trying to go away from each other. From this shape, we're going to move into warrior 2. Sometimes in other yoga classes, you might learn this with your feet more in a line, but for today, we're going to keep them wide. Reaching through the fingertips, the arms are somewhat parallel to the ground. They don't have to be perfect, but the shoulders aren't up next to your ears. Let them relax. And then what most people need to do is lean back a little bit, lean to the left. So you're putting some more weight in this back leg and less in this front, bending into that right knee, and again, pushing it to the right. We're going to do what's called reversing. So from here, your left arm is going to reach down your left leg. It doesn't have to go super far. We want no pain. And the right arm is going to reach up. Try to think about lengthening through the right side. That's what we're really trying to do here. Straighten that front leg. And then we're going to send the right arm way, 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 way out, coming into a triangle. So the right hand will find the shin somewhere. If that doesn't feel good, you can always move your block to the outside of your shin. And the left arm comes up. You can either look straight ahead, or maybe you're able to turn and look towards your left hand. Push your feet down, pull your chest forward, and then reach up with that left arm toward the ceiling. When you do that, you should feel some engagement. I'm not worried about our hips stacking, but I do kind of want my head and hips to be in line. So I don't want to be really far forward. That can actually knock you off balance. Think about squeezing the hips forward so the head and the hips are in line. All right, our next balancing shape, you're going to look down, bend your right knee. You could take your left hand to your hip. Let's just all do that for this first one. Pushing the right foot down, you're going to lift that left leg up. I will say, if you have a squishier mat, like right now I'm in this spot where both of my mats are stacked, it's a little harder to balance. But you're gonna think about getting your left leg, your left toes to point forward. Left leg is gonna be somewhat parallel to the ground, although again, it does not need to be perfect. And then you're gonna pull your chest and head forward. Pushing that right hand down if it's on a prop. And then to stand, you just bring that left leg to your right leg and stand straight up. All right, so no forward folds really, no down dog, no planks, but it's a pretty hard flow. So you're gonna get your blood flowing, you're gonna get your heart rate up, we're gonna warm up our body. All right, we're gonna do the other side. This time I'm gonna do it facing the side so you can sort of see from the side angle what this looks like. From here, bringing weight into your left foot, bring your right knee in towards your chest. Arms can come up if you'd like. And then send that right leg back, hands coming down, finding those blocks. Hips are square to the ground. So by that, I just mean we're not trying to get that right hip up high. It's just tilted. And see that my leg isn't way up. We don't want an arch in the low back. In fact, I want to sort of pull my chest forward. I want to be able to see my toes. And I want to make sure they're pointing down to the ground. And then from warrior three, you set that right foot way back, bend into the left knee, bring the chest up. Push the left knee to the left, push the right foot down, lift the fingertips up. So I want my hips to try to be forward, not sideways. That's where we're going in the next one. Hips are forward in warrior one. And then take a few breaths here. Trying to think about pushing the feet down, lifting the fingers up. From there, we're gonna open up warrior two. So the hands will come parallel to the ground, reach through them. That helps broaden the collarbones. That helps the shoulders sink down. Pushing the left knee to the left, push the right foot down, and maybe lean a little bit back so that your shoulders are more over your hips and not all the weight forward in this front leg. From there, reverse. Let that right hand come down. It can even just come to your hip if that felt better than reaching down, and then reach up with the left arm. We don't want any pinching in the low back, thinking more about just lengthening through the side. And then straighten that front leg. Bring the left arm way, 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 way out. It finds the shin or the knee or the thigh or the ankle. Pull the head forward. Push the feet down. See what happened in my hips when I push the feet down? They become more engaged. Lift the right arm up. If that feels okay, if you need to keep it on your hips, that's fine too. If it's up, reach through the fingertips to help broaden through the collarbone. You could look up towards that thumb, or you could look forward, or you could look down. Bringing the right hand to the hip, looking down, bending into the left knee to lift the right leg off the ground. Keep the right leg engaged. Don't just let it float there and be lazy. Push through the heel. And then stand all the way up. I think I forgot to tell you what that shape is called. It's called half moon. Is what you end in, and then you find Samasthiti. All right, we're gonna do this 2 more times, slightly faster. So you don't have to hold those shapes every single time that long. And especially for these next two, if you're like, oh, I'm not sure that my ankle's in the right spot, but it feels okay, it doesn't hurt, don't stress out about it. That's not what this is gonna be about. It's more about just building some energy in the body. It's also about just moving so that you're not thinking about whatever else is going on, right, outside of this class. From here, bring weight into the right foot, left knee comes up, arms can come up too. Send the left leg back, send the chest forward, bring the hands down, warrior three. Step back, warrior one. Open the arms up, warrior two. You're still pushing that right knee to the right. Reverse. Bringing the right arm up. And then straighten that front leg. Send the right arm out, 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 and then down. Triangle. Looking down, you can either choose to keep your left hand where it is or bring it to your hip, Right hand comes forward, lift the left leg up, half moon. Now you're trying to open your chest and hips to the left. And then stand up. All right. I've lost you all, but I think you're still there. I think you're just over here off to the side. So there you go. All right, next side. From here, weight comes into your left foot, your right knee comes up. Again, even if you can only catch a moment of air, that's fine. It's really about building the balance, and that happens from the shakes and the falls. Warrior 3, pulling the chest forward. Step the foot back, lift the chest up, warrior 1. The chest is pointing forward in warrior 1. Open up, warrior 2. Chest is pointing to the right now. Reverse, bringing the right arm back, the left arm up, and then come forward into triangle. So you're making triangle with your legs, with your arms, and then with your body. Looking down, you can bring the right hand to the hip if you'd like, stepping forward a little bit. It's a bend into the left knee, and then a lift of the right leg up, opening the chest up as possible. Step forward, Samasthiti. One more. Left knee in. If you want to inhale there, that's a good place to inhale. It's a good place to exhale into warrior 3. You could inhale into warrior 1 and exhale into warrior 2. Inhale into reverse. Exhale into triangle. These are just suggestions. You don't have to be with me. Looking down. Take an exhale and then finding half moon. And then you're going to try to stand on an inhale. And we have one more side. Bringing the right knee in. Inhale. Exhale, warrior 3. Maybe you choose not to use the hands this time. Inhale, warrior 1. Exhale, warrior 2, opening the arms to the side. Inhale, reversing. Exhale, finding triangle. Looking down, take an inhale, step forward into half moon. Take an exhale in the half moon, and then inhale, find your way to standing. And that's the sequence. So you could obviously speed it up or slow it down based on how you want to do it. I definitely suggested if you're like, feel like you have a lot of nervous energy, you want to move, but you don't really want to hold planks or hurt your shoulders, it's a great place to be. All right. From there, we're going to do one plank just to get down to the ground. So we'll stand, find our Samasthiti. You can put your blocks off to the side for now. Inhaling, arms up. Exhale, just fold, let everything go. If you have any disc issues, you may want to keep your back flat, or you can round in. Inhale, halfway lift, pulling your chest forward, lengthen through the spine. This should feel pretty familiar. And then exhaling, we're going to fold back in. We're going to bring our hands down to the ground and start to walk our feet back. So we're finding a plank. Hands are under shoulders, toes are under ankles. You can either keep your knees up or drop them, but what you're looking for is this pull forward in the chest, but then you're pulling your lower ribs and hips together, so you're taking out a big back bend in the back. And then pushing the hands down so that you're not slumping into the shoulders. And then everybody drop their knees and start to sit back. You can actually keep your toes tucked if you'd like. And we might just come into a brief fire toes today. We're going to add on to this. So toes tucked. You could start to sit your hips back over your heels. You might be able to sit all the way up. That might cause knee pain. You can always bring a prop in front of you so you can be forward. We don't want any knee pain, but we're trying to find a stretch in the back of the feet, the soles of the feet. So you can be kind of honestly anywhere where there's no knee pain, but maybe there's a lot of sensation in the feet. So we'll just take a couple more breaths here. We might add on to this throughout the week. This shape is affectionately known as fire toes, in case that's what you're feeling. And then from there, just come forward, You can even smack your feet on the ground. And we're going to make our way into Dandasana. So make sure you have a blanket nearby. I'm actually going to sit on my blanket this way. And we're going to sit down. It doesn't have to be a fancy way to get into it. You're just finding your way to a seated place with your legs out in front of you. So for some people, sitting right here is already going to be a lot. You might not even be able to get your legs perfectly straight. They might be a little bit bent. That's okay. If you can find something higher to sit on, like a pillow or maybe a couple blankets piled, that might help. You're going to use your hands to help you sit up tall through the chest. But check on a few things. Are your ears and your shoulders together? Can you push your shoulders down your back so that they're farther away from your ears? I have like pretty long arms. So in the traditional Ashtanga yoga practice, it's like hands right next to your hips. But in 2020, we realized people's bodies are different. You might have your hands slightly behind you and you might have your hands slightly in front of you. But what you are trying to do is get as long of a spine as possible. So you're really trying to stack shoulders over hips if possible. For me to let my shoulders be away from my ears, my hands need to be a little bit behind my hips. Some people might need to have their hands on blocks because their arms are shorter. Sitting up nice and tall. Check in with your legs. So the one thing that starts to happen is you might just notice your legs are chilling out, either flopping out to the side like mine are, maybe they flop to the center. Can you point your toes straight up towards the ceiling? And then can you get your big toe and your pinky to be in line? So that just means for me, my feet kind of have a natural tendency to come back to me. I'm going to push through my big toe mound. Some people's pinkies will have a more natural tendency to come back towards them. So you'll push through that outer edge of the foot. And then keeping the legs engaged. So this shape's called Dandasana, seated staff. If you're already feeling a ton of sensation, just trying to sit up, just trying to get your legs straight, you don't need to add anything else on. But if you're not feeling a lot of sensation, you could start to take your chin up and back, and then maybe letting it roll down towards the chest. So your spine is still as straight as possible. You've got this little rounding at the upper back and the neck. And in that space, you can really see your chest and maybe your belly. And so when you inhale, you can watch that chest rise. And then exhale, keep it there and just let the belly relax. Again, this is just only if you need more sensation. If you don't need more sensation, you're just breathing. But if you needed more sensation, what you're going to try to do is inhale and get the spine to be as long as possible. Exhale, keep the spine where it is, just letting the belly relax. And then that way, each time you inhale, you might get a little longer and a little longer. So that you can feel a stretch in the back or in the legs. Just one more inhale in. And then exhale, relax a little bit. You can let your arms relax. We're going to come from here and deeply bend your knees. Like so much so that your belly finds your thighs, which is going to be easier for some of us than others. And then you're going to reach your arms up and you're reaching under your thighs. And you're going to grab onto whatever you can grab onto. That could be hands, wrists. You might be able to grab your elbows. You could be just grabbing fingertips. You may only be able to grab your thighs. That's okay too. Whatever you're grabbing onto though, it doesn't move. You've decided this is where it is and you're not moving it. You're going to pull your chest forward. So you're getting long in the spine again, not rounded in, trying to be long. And then from there, you might start to straighten your legs a little bit. But the minute you start to feel your hands slide from wherever they are, you stop. And then you just let your head relax. So I know one of the big things, especially when people are starting yoga, they're always like, I can't touch my toes. I want to touch my toes. Like being able to touch your toes doesn't really make you a better person. And oftentimes we hurt ourselves trying to get there. So think of this as the more honest version of touching your toes. This is all about your spine and your legs. So you're not cheating by rounding in and really reaching with your shoulders and sort of compromising your back. You're keeping your back safe and finding a nice stretch there. to really show that the legs and the back can work together. And maybe at some point you find a little bit more release, so maybe you're able to stretch your legs forward a little bit more. Not having any pain in the low back. If that's happening, bend the knees more. Keep pulling the chest forward more. Taking one more. Inhale in. Look towards the toes. Exhale, unwind the hands, and inhale, sit yourself up. You can shake out the legs. You might even lean back a little bit and sort of give yourself a little windshield wiper, letting the knees fall side to side. I'm going to show you this one from this direction. So bringing your legs back out in front of you. You can choose to keep sitting on the blanket, or you can take the blanket away. It kind of depends on how you feel today. But we're going to take our right leg, and we're going to set that right ankle on top of the left leg, slightly above the knee, but not up in the, we're not pulling it up next to our hip. It's almost like it's somewhat parallel to the front of the mat. You just want it to feel comfortable. For most people, there's kind of this natural gap between their quad and their knee where it can rest comfortably, and your ankle bone is off the thigh a little bit so that it's not pushing down into that. Your foot could theoretically move. This part's a little gross, at least you get to be at home. Gross, that's not the word I should say, but a little weird to people. We're gonna take our fingers and we're gonna stick them in between each toe. So it's like your hand is holding hands with your foot. So the pinky goes between the pinky and the next toe and the next toe. So that when you're done, you look like this. You're holding up, you're holding your foot with your hand. Now you're gonna try to get your fingers down into your toe knuckles as much as possible and your toes up into your finger knuckles as much as possible. That's a pretty big stretch for some of us, especially if you're not walking around barefoot a lot, wear a lot of tight shoes. Might be a lot. If that's the case, you may want to focus a lot on this big toe and kind of pushing it away. So you could spread your fingers, spreading between the toes, and relax them. You could squeeze your foot and relax it. So I pulled these out, show people. Our feet were not made to go into shoes. They were made to sort of be free. Biology wasn't thinking about shoes, although they are very good for keeping us protected. They're not so great for our toe health. So if you're like, oh, this is hard, this is so hard for me, you might want to consider getting some of these little yoga toes. You can wear them while you're doing yoga, or you can just wear them around the house for like 5 minutes at a time, especially if this is super tight. These go in between each toe, just like your hand is here, but you can walk around on them. These ones are squishy. They have ones that are hard. I think those are a little bit more intense. They cost like $10 online, so they're not super expensive, but if you know you have feet problems, this might be something you want to look into. All right, from here, we're going to release the foot, bring our hands behind us, and then bend the left knee. So the left foot goes on the floor. This is like a figure 4 in your legs. That might be too much. You might have not been able to do that. The knee might just bend a little bit. Maybe you're able to get your whole foot on the floor, but whatever you're doing, try to sit up tall. So you're out of your shoulders. You can shake your head easily. If you want more, the foot comes in closer. So you're bringing that leg in closer. You're trying to sit up taller towards it. If you need less, it's the opposite. The foot goes forward. So you're here, trying to sit up nice and tall. Now, some people prefer sitting still and just breathing. Some people are going to prefer rocking side to side, maybe rolling across the hips a little bit. So we're opening our hips, which is a spot a lot of us hold a lot of tension in, a lot of emotions in. So we need to hold it for just a little bit longer to really try to release some of that tension. And in doing that, just don't be surprised if there's also some release of emotion. There's lots of like yoga memes and jokes out there right now about doing hip openers and the release of emotion that it can bring. But sometimes that's okay, because it's really important as humans to feel a full gamut of emotion, the full thing, and then sort of know what you've been holding on to. All right, from here, we're going to start straightening this left leg back out. The right foot finds its way to the ground. Even if that means you're rolling off to your side a little bit. I'm still on this blanket. I was on it awkwardly. And you can still be up on your blanket. That's totally fine. I just kind of rolled off mine on accident. From here, you're facing your knees. You're going to take your hands to it. Pull your chest up. Use your arms to help you sit up as tall as possible. Check in with this left leg. I'm not super worried about it relaxing. However, if you know you have back problems, see what would happen if you keep this leg engaged a little bit. That helps you keep from moving in just one spot in your back. So sitting up nice and tall, you're going to take your right hand behind you. That's your kickstand to help you sit up. You're going to take your belly button to the right, then maybe your chest, then maybe your chin. So you're twisting over that front leg. Depending on how your body's shaped, how your back is, you may not be twisting very far. You might be the opposite of me and not feel any sensation in this shape. So you might be able to bring your left arm up and then around the outside of the right leg. That's not me today. I'm not going to even try it because I'm just not feeling that much mobility in my back. So instead, I'm going to sit here and really, really try to sit up as tall as possible, and then maybe find a little bit more twist. So sitting up tall helps protect your spine. We don't necessarily always want to twist into a big rounded spine. And then trying to twist from the belly button up helps it so that not just your upper back is twisting. If your chin going over your right shoulder causes you to have any neck stress, you just bring it on straight. So it's like right in line with your sternum. Taking a few more breaths here. And we'll slowly come out by taking the chin forward first, and then the chest, and then the belly button, and then you'll release. And you can just take your right leg, set it back down. You might give yourself a little shake. You might lean back and give yourself those windshield wipers, knees side to side. And then we'll switch sides. So right leg will come forward. Left ankle will come on top of that. From there, you're holding hands with your foot, trying to get those fingers up into the knuckles as much as possible, trying to get the toes up into the finger knuckles as much as possible. And sides might be really different. This foot might have a totally different sensation. Tightness is just a lot tighter for me than the other one. Remember that you're trying to have your ankle off of the thigh, just so it's not pushing down and creating any tension in the leg. And then you're sitting up tall. I forgot to say that earlier. So I definitely have a tendency to start to slump. Try to keep yourself lifted up. You don't have to like force yourself up, but just enough that it's not a lot of stress in your back. And you can squeeze your foot and release, or you could spread your fingers and release. This is a really good, and especially if you go get those yoga toes, if you have bunions, this is something that they would probably prescribe to you, a doctor or a physical therapist, stretching the feet. One of my favorite local physical therapists just made a post today, ironically. I was planning this class anyway, and she had made a post about foot health. We're just going to sit here with our fingers like this a little bit more. And she said, there's a couple different ways you can really increase the strength of your feet. One of them, of course, is fun games, kind of like what we did with the toe game, lifting and letting it go. This kind of thing is the way you can do that. But she said the other thing that she just really recommends to patients on a regular basis is walking around barefoot as much as you can. And if you don't do that often, you have to start slow. but especially since we're home a lot more, at least I am recently, you might want to just try it. What would it feel like to not put on shoes till 10 o'clock, right? Something like that, and just go from there. Her name's Chelsea Matthews, by the way, Catalyst Physical Therapy. All right, from there, we're gonna release the left foot, bring the hands behind you so they can help support you, bend the right knee, and again, that could be here, right? That could be here, that might be closer, and you're trying to push away from your shoulders though. So if you're here and you're rounded in, this isn't really getting it. This is putting a lot of stress in your back. That's not what we're trying to do. You want to have your chest lifted. That might mean that you need to walk that foot forward a little bit and your ego just has to get over it. The ego causes lots of problems for us. And it can even cause a lot of injuries for us. And part of this practice is getting to know what you actually need and what you think you need. You could move side to side if that would feel better. You could try to maybe scoot in a little bit more now that we've been here a moment, maybe move side to side. I should have said this earlier, when we're holding a shape like this too, check in with your breath. It can help keep you present, but also if you notice you're like, whew, whew, or like labored breathing, stalled breathing, it's too much. You've gone too far. That's how you're going to cause some injury to yourself. You want to make sure you can still breathe. You can still talk if you needed to. And then the breath is really honestly pretty natural. Okay, coming out of this side, you're going to straighten that right leg. You're going to drop the left foot down to the ground. If it feels okay on your knee, you can push that foot to the ground. Sometimes it's not going to feel okay on a knee. And if that's the case, you can just sort of let it relax a little bit. Sit up nice and tall. The other way to take stress out of the knee would be to add more height under the hip. So sitting up nice and tall, you can keep that right leg engaged. So see how my toes are still pointing up, they're not like flopping down, the leg's engaged. You could take your left hand behind you. That might just be where you want to stay. You might be feeling enough sensation, you don't need to add on. Maybe you could take your belly button to the left, and then your chest, and then your chin. My left side's much tighter than my right side, so I'm not even going to try getting my right elbow to the outside of my left knee, but you could reach up. It helps to reach up first so you get length in the side of your waist, and then take that to the outside of the knee. It's not happening today. So a lot of people hold tension in their hips, right? Like I just said, some people, me included, tend to hold a lot more tension in our backs and our rib cages. And I've noticed this week, I am incredibly tight in my rib cage area. And so this might be the case for you as well. You might be like, I didn't really feel anything on that hip thing, but wow, do I feel a lot here. And so you find a level of sensation that feels like you don't need to change your breath, it doesn't feel like anything sharp or pinching, then you stay with it for a moment. Maybe noticing if there's spots that are still really, really tense, can you try to breathe into them? Just really concentrating your mind's eye on that space as you inhale and exhale. And then we'll start to come out first by taking the chin forward, then the shoulders, then the ribs, then the belly. So you're really unwinding. Take that left foot back forward, shake it out a little bit, let the knees fall side to side like a little windshield wiper. I'm going to check my time. Perfect. Okay, find your ball again. And if you happen to have these massage balls, or after taking class today, you decide, oh, I want to go get some of those massage balls, they will come in like a little baggie. So if you have that, grab both of them. It's also fine to just have one. I'm going to show you something you could do with this in just a second. So the next thing we're going to do is just we're going to give ourselves an upper body massage with the ball. There's not really a right or wrong way to do any of this, except if it hurts. So if it feels pinching or nervy, move the ball. Some people say don't roll over bone. When you start to get up into your shoulders and stuff, it's going to be kind of hard to do. But what they really mean is don't go straight like on the shoulder blade. We're kind of going to go around it. It'll touch the bone, but we're not trying to force, the bone to go anywhere. So I'm going to show this from this angle. Grab your balls. If you just have one, that's cool. If you have two and you want to do them at the same time, you have two shoulders. It works out great. But I'm just going to show you with one right now. I'm going to take this, and you're going to just kind of reach back like you're giving yourself a pat on the back, and the ball's going to go at the bottom of your trap. So not right in the middle of your spine, not right over your shoulder blade, but kind of right in between. Like I said, it's not like a right or wrong way to do that. And then you're going to lay back onto it. So then you'll let your arm relax down. Ooh. It's almost like the traps are this muscle that go across the back of your shoulders. It's almost like it gets up under it a little bit, depending on your body, your stress level, where you hold stress. This could be extremely intense, or it could feel like nothing at all. So I'm not going to tell you to look for a certain sensation, but you'll know if it is too much or too little based on your breath. So from there, you're making sure it's not on your bone. Your head might not be able to relax totally to the ground, and if that's the case, grab a blanket and put it under the head, make the ground come to the head. So you might just want to stay there and breathe. Honestly, that's probably what I would choose right now. It's kind of a lot for me. Or you can make little snow angels, really slowly moving your arm up and down. And maybe as you're moving, you're like, ooh, there's a spot I want to stay in. Or some people will prefer to take their arm overhead and down. So it's like you're making a rainbow. Somebody might choose to do a whole combo of both. And so this might be a great spot for you. You might be like, oh, I want to stay there forever. And if you have two balls, you can do both arms at the same time. Basically, try to get at least 5 to 10 breaths in one spot before you move the ball. So this is no rush to tell you to move. I'm just telling you kind of where you can go. You'll obviously want to go to the other side if you have just one ball. Maybe it just stays in kind of that spot under the traps. You can come up and back down, or I just kind of scooted up a little bit, moved my ball over, and then laid back down. Sides can be ridiculously different here. Now, if you have any shoulder injuries, let's say like a rotator cuff injury or something like that, you might not want to lay your full body on that. You might actually want to lay off the side a little bit so that you can get some massage, but it won't be such an intense pressure on the shoulder. Now, if you've been cleared to get massages from your doctor, then it's probably fine. I just want to make sure that if anybody's still in treatment with any shoulder injuries, they're just taking it real easy. And then you might want to move that ball up into the traps a little bit more. To be honest, if you can really hook the balls under the traps, you're going to get more of a long-term relief. And so there's some teachers, some physical therapists who are like, don't even bother massaging the top of the trap. And I know that, like, technically you might not get as much relief, but sometimes it does feel so good in the moment. So if you really want to massage your traps by laying on them and like having the ball or both balls be in them, I'm not going to fault you for that. Maybe it feels just really good today. And you can, again, move the arm. You might also want to take these balls, especially if you have two, but if you just have one, that's fine too. They kind of get into the space at the base of the neck where the head and neck connect. That can be a fairly sensitive spot, so you might want to not have it necessarily right on it. It could be to the side. Basically, you're just moving that ball around your back as much as possible. We don't have a lot of time for me to go through all the spots that you could hit today. As we start to speed up those sequences earlier in the class, I'll have more time to maybe go down the back a little bit more. But just know it's an option to move down the back as well. And then I was going to teach everybody a little head and neck massage. So if you only have one ball, it's a little harder. You'll have to go up one side and then the other, or you can grab a block or something kind of heavy with a corner. If you have the balls, I'm going to show that way first. So if you have two balls, you would take the balls and they're going to go at the occipital ridge. So the space where the head and the neck connect kind of will be, because they're the way they're shaped, will be on either side of the spine. And then you would, oops, a little bit block there, lay on those. Oh. And you can kind of massage up and down the neck. They might move a little bit depending on what kind you have, but they'll find a spot. You might move your head side to side. These are moving, probably tennis balls, they not move as much, which is why if you buy these massage balls, they come with this little bag. I highly suggest the bag anytime you're working on anything around your spine. So go inside this little bag, you cinch them up, and then that will go behind your head. And the balls won't move because they're in a little bag. And you could shake your head, yes, sort of giving yourself this massage in the back. You might have to keep adjusting, it's okay. You keep your hand there for a moment. And you could take your head left or right a little bit. And so basically just giving yourself a little back of the head massage. Where we have a lot of lymph nodes, we might also hold a lot of tension there. The block could do the same thing, except the edge of the block, the corner of the block would kind of go to the occipital ridge, space where the head and neck connects, maybe a little higher than that, and you roll across the back. We also have some like glands, some sinus things back there. So as you roll from side to side, you might see like, ooh, my left side's way tighter than my right side, or not tighter, but more sensational. Maybe you stay there for a moment. You tend to get a lot of migraines from neck tension. Might be a good thing to explore. You want to start gentle so that you don't upset anything. If you weren't feeling enough with the head on the ground, you could put it up onto a block or blanket so there's a little bit more elevation and do the same thing. That feels really good on that sort of just gentle nod of the head to me, or left to right. From there, you get the option, especially if you have two balls or you have something even, you can just keep your head on straight and let your head rest on those. Or maybe even let the ball be in the curve of the neck to help sort of support the curve of the neck. Or you could put a blanket under your head. You could start to straighten your legs out. We're finding Shavasana. So laying on your back, if that feels okay, you could put props under your knees, like a blanket or a pillow. You could find a couch and throw your feet up onto that couch. Maybe for some of us, laying on our backs doesn't feel good. And for some of us, laying on our backs can be a really releasing and like relaxing place. And for others, it's not. So you can always sit up. You can sit up in a meditation, or maybe you find a couch or a pillow. I could do something like this. Put my pillow against my couch so I can lean on it. I might go really crazy and put a pillow behind my head as well, so that you could be upright a little bit. In a studio space, I would love to set you up with bolsters and blocks so that you could have a seated meditation that was really comfortable and cozy. But I don't know what you have at home. So basically, you're just trying to find a physically comfortable spot to rest. I'm going to sit up. So you're finding a spot that feels comfortable to you so that you can find the space between activity and sleep. You can give your body a moment to physically rest, your breath the chance to become involuntary, and your mind the chance to rest. That last part's probably the hardest part. And so you could just watch your breath for as long as it takes for your mind to sort of just let go. It might never happen, and that's okay too. But giving yourself some space to rest so that you can be recharged, so that your body can heal itself. Your immune system can function. Your nerves can be soothed. Ideally, you'd have a 12-minute Shavasana. That has been scientifically studied to be a really optimal time for the nervous system. Today I went a little over. So I will finish the video, I will finish the class. However, if you are comfortable where you are, you want to stay in Shavasana, then you stay. You can close the computer, come back, or you can just try to ignore me. And from here, as you're ready, whenever you're ready to get out of your Shavasana, you would deepen your breath. Bring subtle movement back to the fingers and toes. And make that movement larger as it moves toward your heart center. So the head and the neck would fall. You move through your wrists and your ankles, your elbows, your knees. And then you find your way to whatever side feels right today. Take a few breaths on your side. And then make your way to a comfortable seated place. In class, just by sitting in this sort of meditative space and expressing gratitude to yourself for creating this space and this time for yourself, to your classmates for sharing their energy with you, to the teachers and the cultures from which all of these practices came. And I express gratitude towards each of you for sharing your practice with me. Dhanyavad. Thank you. Feel free to stay in Shavasana if you're there in the recording.